Hi guys, let me share my screen. Hi all, can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay, good. So yesterday, guys, when we have tried to deploy the project to the VM in our last class, the front end was successful, but there was an issue with the backend. So let us quickly resolve that and let us complete that project now. For that, I'm creating one virtual machine, guys. You know how to create a virtual machine. And for this project, let me create a database also. You know, guys, how to create the database also. Give me a minute. Yesterday, guys, I have explained the total project. Now, do you remember, guys? In our last class, do you remember the last class, guys? Have you remember? The backend was not deployed. We got an issue in the VM.
Yes,
do you remember,
yes,
guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, here there is no security issue, is it? Because we are giving the password here.
Yeah. No security.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 minute. Then so I'm creating the database, guys. Yes, it will take some time to create. Let me duplicate this. Meanwhile, guys, yeah, let me. What is this code, guys? Can anyone tell me what is this code?
React frontend, sir.
Yeah, it's a React front-end code. We know that. So 1 minute, guys. Let me. This is my VM address. So you know, guys, the backend application will be accessed with the. So I'm updating this. Give me a minute. You will understand what I have just done. Can anyone tell me, guys, what is this URL? Can anyone tell me what is this URL? I have mentioned in the variable.js file. What is this URL? Can anyone tell me?
This is the VM URL, sir, where we are deploying our frontend application.
No, it is the backend URL.
Okay.
Because the front end will have a backend URL.
Correct.
And the backend will have a database connection string. That is the connection.
Yeah, right.
So this is my backend URL. In my backend, this is my VM's IP address. There, the www root folder, I'm copying my project file. So my application should have this URL. Okay, let me. Yeah, this is done. Now, guys, let me open this virtual machine. You just copy paste the files, now, guys. You don't do anything. When you want to deploy the project to the VM, what will you do? You need to copy paste those the project files to the VM. Download that. I'm connecting to my VM. In the last class, we have already did this, guys. That is the reason I'm not explaining again. The whole process has already been explained. We got an issue, so we are recreating the whole entire project. So this is done. Go back to the database. Is it created? Yeah, it is in the process of creation. Okay, meanwhile, let me go to the backend application. And this is the backend application. If you remember, guys, bin, release, publish will have the final code. Do you remember, guys? How did I get this publish folder? Anyone remember?
Yes, sir. From VS Code, Visual Studio, we have made it published.
Yeah, so we have created this. So your backend programmer will give this publish folder to you. So I have already given the publish folder to you. So you have to just copy the contents of the publish folder, the backend folder, to your VM. So meanwhile, you have to install one role. What is that role, guys? Can anyone tell me? What is the first thing which we do when you log in?
IIS, sir.
Yeah, web server role you have to install. So let me add the role. When I install the web server role, now my VM will become a web server. Add this role, next, 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 install. So it will take 3 minutes. Let me go back here. Let me see whether the database is ready. Yeah, it is ready. Now, when you create any database, guys, what is the first thing which you need to do? Excuse me. You have just created a database for your project. What the first thing you need to do, guys?
We need to create a SQL server, sir. In the SQL server, in the networking part, we need to enable the client.
Someone is speaking, but I am unable to view the voice. Listen the voice.
We need to create a SQL server, sir. First.
Yeah, go to your server. And here, what should we do?
Networking.
We should go to networking.
Add client and allow the Azure or something.
In networking, we have to enable this selected networks, and you have to add this IP, and you have to check this box and save button. If you don't do this, your database cannot be accessed. Don't worry, sometimes exceptions will come. Don't worry about that. Go back to your database. Let me try to log into the database. This is my database. If you have missed the last class, it may be a little bit confusing for you guys. If you missed that, can you please review the class? Now, guys, I have already given the code for this project, the database script. Did I give? This is the database script. You only need to execute this. How will you do this? Copy it and go and paste it here. Run. So my database is ready, guys. It contains 2 tables. Very, very good. It is ready. Database is ready. Now, can you tell me, guys, what should we do after we? Okay, let me go to my data. This thing done. Yes, here you will actually go to the www root, and what will you copy there? You will go to C drive, inetpub, www root, and here, guys, what will you copy?
DLL file, sir. The publish.
The publish folder, which the programmer has given. The publish folder, you have to copy that here. It will be there in bin, release, publish. Copy the contents here, copy and paste it here. Once you copy the publish folder, and what is the next step you need to do, guys? You have copied it, try to access. Okay. Here, guys, can anyone tell me how my backend is getting the data from the database? Can anyone tell me how my backend application is contacting the database?
App setting configuration.
Yeah, app setting.json file. In this file, you are mentioning the connection string, guys. So let me see. whether it is correct with the database which I have created. This is my database. You have to recheck whether the string is correctly mentioned there. Go to connection string. Your server is this. This is my server. This should be your server. What is the database name? It is initial catalog. My SQL DB. Database name is this. Username password is correct. Done. Save. So this is the first thing you have to do, guys. In your app setting.json file, update the connection string value in your code. Once you do this, when I try to access the application locally, will I access it or not, guys? It will give an error. Why? Are we missing something here? What are
port?
No, port 80 is already added, not port. Actually, I told you guys you have to install runtime. Without runtime, the application cannot work. Do you remember, guys? In the last class, I have explained to host the .NET application on your VM, the VM should contain the runtime. Is it correct or not, guys? What is runtime? Can anyone tell me? Guys, what is the runtime? Anyone, guys? What is runtime?
Is the software by using the backend application will run, sir.
Yeah, if you don't have that software, download .NET Core 3.1 runtime. Because your application, this will be again told by the backend programmer. He will tell you this. Could you please install that .NET Core 3.1 or 6.2? He will mention the number, guys. So what should you do? You have to, he will mention the number, .NET Core 3.1, 5.2, 4.6. So whatever the runtime he has mentioned, you have to download and install it in your machine. Because if you don't install that, what will happen? Your application cannot be hosted here. Is it correct, guys? Do you remember? So what is the use of a runtime? Runtime is used to, it will actually help your application to run on that machine. If your machine, if your virtual machine doesn't contain the runtime, the total code for your virtual machine like an alien language, it doesn't understand anything because it cannot run it. To run any .NET application, you need to have this runtime. If you don't have this runtime, the application will not work on the server. So you have to first install its related runtime on your machine. So I'm installing that runtime. Done. That has been installed. Next, guys, you have to install one more thing, which is known as hosting bundle. What is the hosting bundle? Your virtual machine need to have this. Then only it can host any .NET application. So you have to install these three things, guys. First is runtime. Next is hosting bundle. Next is .NET framework. These three need to be installed on your VM. Then only you can VM host a .NET application. Otherwise, it cannot host. Done. The third thing, you have to install .NET framework, guys. These three things you have to install, guys. Done. Once you install these three things, guys, now try to access that application. Localhost. Now, guys, if you observe, how will you access the localhost? By using API/employee. Do you remember, guys? Let me go and let me add the port number 80 on the server. But it is already added now. What happened? VM address is saying 21.17.65.138. 21.65.138 correct. API employee department. Just a minute, guys. I have done the project entirely today morning batch only. I've explained the same project. It was run successfully for that. Give me 1 minute, guys. Let me go and check the inetpub www runtime. This is me JSON file. Server ecom server 1256. What is the server name which I have given? Okay, let me try to access weather forecast. Yeah, this is, so I'm able to get the JSON data of weather forecast. That means an issue with the database, guys. 1 minute.
It will need to add that IP an
Yeah,
exception.
I have added the IP is here. Now it will come, don't worry. Yeah, you can see, guys. What happened here? This particular tick was not happened. So it is not allowing other services to access the database. Now, if you observe here, guys, I'm able to, guys, this is my backend application. Is it correct or not? Generally, what my data backend application will contain? What does it contain? A backend application? Can anyone tell me? I have shown you now, guys, your project will have the minimum 3 components. What are those components? Your front end, your back end, and your database. Is it correct?
Yes, yes,
How
sir.
my front end is communicating with the back end? Can anyone tell me?
Via APIs.
Yeah, via API. That means I need to copy the backend APIs in the front end code. And how my backend is communicating with the database? I need to copy the connection string in the backend, which I have done it. So, guys, when I'm trying to access the backend application, it is actually accessing the data of the database, correct? It is getting the data which is mentioned in the database tables. So this is my table. From this particular server, from this table, whatever the data is mentioned, I'm able to access from my backend application. Is it clear or not, guys? Is it clear or not? What you have just done? Do you understand this? Clear? Clear.
Yes, clear, sir.
Now let me go back. And here, guys, once you have the backend URL, this is your backend URL, guys. So copy this, that should be copied in this variable or JSON file, guys. You have to copy the backend URL 65.130. Yeah, you copied it. Once you copy it, guys, you have to save this. And one more thing you have to do, guys. Here, you have to remove the build folder. Already one build folder is there, guys. Delete that. Because for the backend application, you have copied the publish folder. Here, guys, you have to copy the build folder. For that, you need to type this command, npm run build. What will it do? With the new change, here you have changed the backend URL. What will it do? It will actually create one build folder. You can see how we have created the publish folder for the .NET. In the same way, the React will create a build folder. If you change any code in your file, guys, you have to generate the build folder again. Here, what is the change which I have made? I have changed in the backend URL. Once you can see creating an optimized public production build. You can see now the build folder has been created, guys. Wait for a minute. So what we have just done, you change the backend URL in the variable.js file, and you run this command npm run build. Then what will happen? The application will be build and you will get one build folder, guys. You can see creating an optimized build done. So the build folder is ready. Go to that build folder. This is my build folder, guys. Copy the content, whatever mentioned there, and you only need to copy the build content. Go back to your project. your VM, and here guys, you create one folder. Folder is React code, and copy the code here. If you observe guys, we have just copied the published content to www root folder that acted as your backend, and we are copying the front end build folder to this React folder that will act like a front end. Now guys, you have to do one more thing. You have to open inetmgr, which is nothing but your IIS. And what should you do guys here? Here you have to create the second site. Currently, we only have the first site, which is the default site where I have copied the backend code. Now I need to create another site for the front end code. How will you copy? Give a site name that this is site 1, and guys, here go to your folder where you have created the code. This is the code, React code. Okay. Now guys, here you need to give the another port 8080. Now guys, what I have just done, to host the front-end application, I have creating a new site with the name site1 and have given the path and given the port. Okay. Once you've done this, guys, you have to do one more thing. Can anyone tell me what should you do? To access the front-end application, you have to do one thing. What should you do? You have to enable the port and you have to add the port. Is it correct?
Yes.
Where you will add the port number 8080? Two places. One is in your VM's network section, guys. Do you remember? If you don't add that port, your application cannot be accessed. Go to networking.
Adding the inbound rule.
Yes, someone is speaking, but I am unable to hear anything. The network is very bad. Can you type the question, guys, if someone is getting an issue in the chat? You can see, guys, here I'm just adding the port 8080 and add. You have to add here and you have to add one more place also. So go to your, for that you have to run one command. Do you remember, guys? PowerShell command. PowerShell command to open the port. This is the command. Copy this. Here, guys, you need to open the PowerShell script. Just paste it. Now, guys, you have opened the port. Done. It has been opened. Now, guys, how will you locally access the application, the front-end application, guys? Can anyone tell me how to access the front-end application with the port 8080? Is it correct or not?
Yes. Either that way or just give the IP address and port.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, actually, simply you can just outside also come here, use the same IP. And here this time the port is 8080, enter. Yeah, you are accessing the front-end application. Oh, can you what is the difference between these two? And this IP address has default 80 port. So default 80, you know not to there is no need for you to mention. But if any other port other than 80, you have to mention that. You can see. And guys, if you type department, are we able to get the data? Can anyone tell me from where I'm getting this data?
Table, sir, DB table.
Actually, to know that, as I told you to inspect, and I explained, you can go, when you click department, guys, you can see this is the URL. This is my backend URL. Is it correct?
Yes.
Yeah. When I'm trying to access, when you try to access this guy, access outside, you will receive backend JSON. Is it correct, guys?
Yes.
And in the same way, click on employee. It will give another. This is the employee API URL. Try to copy and paste it here. I'm getting employee data. Is it correct? So guys, yes. My front end, what it is doing, it is calling this URL. When the front end is calling this URL, and when you type this URL, actually the back end is calling database. Is it correct, guys? There are three components here. One is my front end. Second is my back end. When I hit the button API/employee, actually the backend is getting whatever data stored in the employee table here. Is it correct?
Yes.
Now, if you go to department, add one department, guys. Department name sales. Create. Done. Now, if you observe here, my database will contain this also. Go back, try to access the department. Now you will be seeing 3 rows. You can see sales department has been added. Is it correct, guys? If you go back and check the database, now the database is having the third data in it. Have you understood, guys? We have done the same project, but in 2 ways. What are those 2 ways? Can anyone tell me? The deployment, the application has been done, but I have explained the last 2 projects. If you go and select start from department, the new row which you have added from the front end, you can see, come here, add another department, support sales, growth, any department, create. When you are creating something here, that means that you are actually inserting the data here. Now only 3 rows, but when I run it, you can see there is a new row. The growth from where I got the new data, I'm actually got the new data from this particular UI, but it is not it is the work of the backend URL. This URL is doing everything. My front end is only calling the backend. My backend is performing all the operations of the database. Is it clear, guys, or not? Is there any confusion here?
It is clear. But actually, Venkat, from front end, we cannot modify the backend database in real time.
Yeah, why can't you modify the data? How, when you register a user on any, if for example there is a Amazon.in, you are registering a new user, where the data of the user is going?
Yes, understood.
Yeah, so it will definitely update the database. Okay. Now, guys, this is here. If you observe, we have done the same project, same React.NET part, but we have initially we have gone. I have explained the serverless. That means we have entirely deployed. The front end was deployed to app service, if you remember, and the backend is also deployed to app service. Is it correct, guys? This front end I have deployed here, and the backend also have deployed to a app service. And the second deployment, it is server oriented. That means we have deployed the the front end as well as the backend on my VM. Is it correct?
Yes.
So these are 2 different ways of deploying a project in your company. You may, guys, go with an app service thing, or you may deploy the same thing on your VM. So it's entirely depend upon your project architecture. I have shown you both the ways. Now, guys, this is very good. You know that you have understood the entire concept. Very, very good. Let me now the most important concept, guys. Today, the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes is very, very important, because you are going to learn a lot, and there will be a definite interview question from the next concept. So let me delete this VM, because this VM doesn't contain. Yeah, let me delete this. Meanwhile, let me open one diagram.
Venkat, in all the projects, there are only 2 ways now for implement the CI/CD pipeline, or
Yeah,
the product.
Yeah,
Either use the IaaS, or we can use the PaaS service.
Yes. You can use any way. I'm explaining everything now.
Yes. Only 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, guys, if you observe this diagram, something is written here. This is a concept called load balancer, guys. Very, very important concept, load balancer. So before explaining this, let me quickly create 2 VMs. For this, we need at least 2 VMs. I'm creating those 2 VMs. The next 40 minutes are very, very important 40 minutes, guys. So I'm selecting learning. Guys, if you observe here, I'm creating one VM called VM1. And guys, the region is some UK South. And here, guys, if you see availability option, there is an availability option called availability set. If you click that, guys, currently I don't have any set. It asks you to create. When I click the button, guys, if you observe here, you have to give a name of it, available set 01. And if you observe here, guys, it has 2 fault domains and 5 update domains. You can actually change this. So what are these domains? I'll explain in a few minutes. Don't worry. For now, what I've just done, when I'm creating one VM, I have selected availability set. If there is no set, I have created it by clicking this button, create new. Just remember that. Now, guys, let me give a username and password for my VM. Let me allow the port 80 from here. So here you have to remember, you have to use the same UK South is the region, learning is the resource group created. Now I'm creating one VM. This VM has one availability set attached to it, guys. Just remember that. Why we use that? I'll explain in a moment. Now I'm creating one VM. Created. Let me duplicate this. Let me create another VM, guys. I'm creating my second VM. Let me create another VM, VM2, this time VM2, but the configuration, everything should be same. That means the resource group should be same. Name can be different. And the region is UK South, correct? And here, guys, go to availability set. Now, this time you already you have created one availability set. Select the same availability set, set 01. And guys, give any username and password to this. Let me add port 80. Yes, done. Availability set, learning, same set, review and create. And this deployment is in progress. Wait for a minute. Create. Yeah. This is done. Wait for a minute, guys. This will also done.